Mexico City, 2021. For Mariana, a bright university student, life was a familiar rhythm of lectures, friends, and late-night study sessions. Her world was ordinary, grounded in the tangible reality of a bustling metropolis. But in the late spring of that year, the ordinary began to fracture. It started subtly, with a creeping sense of unease that she couldn't shake. Friends noticed she was more withdrawn, her usual laughter replaced by a quiet, vacant stare. The first real sign something was wrong came one evening in her small apartment. Mariana awoke, screaming, convinced something was in the room with her, a suffocating presence she couldn't see. Her roommate, startled and scared, tried to comfort her, but Mariana was inconsolable, her eyes wide with a terror that seemed to look right through her. These night terrors became a nightly ritual. She would wake up drenched in sweat, her heart pounding, often with scratches on her arms and legs she couldn't explain. During the day, her behavior grew more erratic. In the middle of a lecture, she suddenly stood up and began speaking in a low, guttural voice, using archaic phrases her professors had never heard. She was escorted out, confused and humiliated, with no memory of the event. Her friends and family, deeply concerned, convinced her to see a doctor. The initial diagnosis was straightforward: extreme stress, anxiety, perhaps a psychological break. They prescribed medication and recommended therapy, but Mariana's condition only worsened. The episodes became more frequent, more violent. During one visit to her family's home, she flew into a rage over a simple question, throwing a heavy wooden chair across the room with a strength that seemed impossible for her slender frame. Her voice would shift, sometimes becoming the high-pitched cry of a child, other times a deep, menacing rasp that spoke in languages she had never studied. She would recoil at the sight of religious symbols, things that had once brought her comfort. The local hospital admitted her for observation. For weeks, doctors and psychiatrists watched, baffled. They documented her inexplicable strength, requiring several orderlies to restrain her during outbursts. They recorded the multiple, distinct voices that emerged from her, speaking of historical events and personal secrets of the hospital staff, things Mariana could not possibly have known. Her body would contort into unnatural positions, her joints seeming to bend the wrong way. Medical tests came back clean. Scans of her brain showed no tumors, no abnormalities. Psychiatrists debated diagnoses from dissociative identity disorder to schizophrenia, but nothing quite fit the bizarre and terrifying cluster of symptoms. She was trapped in a medical gray area, her condition deteriorating while science struggled to provide an answer. Her deeply religious family, desperate in watching their daughter fade away, began to consider a possibility that medicine had dismissed, that the affliction wasn't of the mind, but of the spirit. They believed Mariana was not sick, but possessed. After exhausting all medical avenues, her family made a difficult decision. They contacted the local archdiocese, pleading for help. The church, typically cautious in such matters, agreed to investigate after reviewing the extensive medical reports and eyewitness accounts from doctors and nurses. The evidence was compelling enough to warrant their intervention. A senior priest, a veteran in the rite of exorcism, was assigned to the case. The sessions were to be conducted in a secure, private room, with a medical team present to monitor Mariana's vital signs. They were stepping into the unknown, a collision of faith and science. The first exorcism session began on a humid evening in August. The room was stark, containing only a bed, a few chairs, and a small table with religious items. As the priest began the prayers, the atmosphere grew heavy, tense. Mariana, who had been docile moments before, began to thrash on the bed. A low growl rumbled from her throat, her eyes turning a chilling, hateful black. She spat curses at the priest, her voice a chorus of overlapping snarls. The medical monitor beeped erratically as her heart rate skyrocketed to dangerous levels. She spoke of the priest's hidden fears, of his past doubts, her words designed to wound and destabilize. The air in the room grew inexplicably cold. Over several weeks, the sessions continued. Each one was a grueling battle. Mariana, or the entity within her, would display shocking phenomena. Objects in the room would move on their own. The temperature would plummet suddenly. The voices would mock the prayers, laughing and blaspheming. The medical staff, though skeptical, meticulously documented everything. The spontaneous bruises that appeared on her skin, the way she could speak for hours without her vocal cords showing any sign of strain, the sheer physical power she exerted. It was a war of attrition, draining the priest, the family, and the medical team who watched. torn between their scientific training and the terrifying events unfolding before their eyes. Then, one night, during a particularly intense session, something shifted, as the priest held a crucifix and commanded the entity to leave in the name of God. Mariana let out a final, agonizing scream that seemed to tear through the very fabric of the room. And then, silence. Her body went limp. The monitors, which had been flashing red, returned to normal. Her breathing steadied. After a few moments, her eyes fluttered open. It was her own eyes this time, clear and confused. She looked at her parents, her face streaked with tears, and whispered a single word, "Mom." The entity was gone. In the days that followed, Mariana's recovery was astonishing. She had no memory of the preceding months, a blank space where the terror had lived. Physically, she was weak but unharmed. Psychologically, she was herself again, the daughter, the friend, the student her loved ones had feared was lost forever. The medical team was left without a conclusive explanation. The files were closed, filled with data that defied easy categorization. Was it a case of a rare, complex psychotic disorder that went into spontaneous remission, a profound manifestation of trauma and suggestion, amplified by a powerful cultural and religious context? Or had Mariana truly been the victim of a demonic possession, saved by an ancient rite in a battle unseen by human eyes? Mariana eventually returned to her life. She finished her degree, moved on, but the questions remain, lingering in the silent hospital records and the memories of those who witnessed her ordeal. For them, the line between the mind and the soul, between sickness and spiritual warfare, had been blurred forever. The case of Mariana stands as a modern testament to an ancient fear, a chilling reminder that there may be phenomena that our science has yet to explain, and terrors that lurk just beyond the edges of our understanding. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more explorations into the unknown.